can head. At ease. I want to tell y'all something. This is a great day to be an American. It's an even greater day to be a Chiefs fan. I'm going to tell y'all something. I don't know what feels better. Seeing the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Denver Broncos or seeing the Las Vegas Raiders lose to a team with no name. See, this right here is what black people mean when they say that God is good all the time. Because last night, we saw America's team, the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw them defeat the Denver Broncos on Sunday Night Football. Now, all they did was beat them by a score of 22-9 and just took over sole possession of the AFC West, but nonetheless, some of you all have the audacity, or as Stephen A. Smith say, the unmedicated galls, to question my man Patrick Mahomes' performance. Look here, man, Patrick went for 189 yards passing. He didn't throw for no touchdowns. He threw one interception, and he rushed for 12 yards and a touchdown. See, if you ask me, Patrick Mahomes may be the only member of the Kansas City Chiefs that actually got their stuff together. Now, what I saw from Patrick Mahomes last night, I simply saw Patrick Mahomes doing his best Larry the Cable Guy impersonation. In other words, all I saw Patrick Mahomes do was get her done. Look here, man, I can tell you right now, I don't think that interception that Patrick Mahomes threw, I don't think it was his fault. It was Tyreek Hill's fault. See, they tell you, you don't catch the ball with your chest. You catch the ball with your hands. See, Tyreek Hill is more worried about being a cheater than he is worried about being a champ. Y'all mark my words, in 2 years, Tyreek Hill will be to the Kansas City Chiefs what Odell Beckham was to the New York Giants as well as the Cleveland Browns. Nothing more than a distraction. And everybody knows what Travis Kelce's problem is. Everybody knows that Travis is down with the swirl. In other words, he's starting to realize that an extended season and dating black women can take a whole lot out of you. Furthermore, I don't blame Patrick Mahomes for last night's game. Hey, really, all that bad play calling, that was on Andy Reid and Eric Bobblehead Bieniemy. See, last night, fourth quarter, hey, man, they went a 3-and-out and only ran up, 30 seconds off the clock? Hey, that's bad coaching. That's not Patrick Mahomes. Hey, man, I'm going to tell you something. If you want to blame somebody for this, blame Brett Reed. It's his fault. Ain't nobody on the Kansas City Chiefs been right since that Super Bowl weekend. All right, having said that, hey, man, thank you for joining our show. We got a great show for you today. In studio, believe it or not, man, we got the real TJ Moe. He's here. He came in here to get some on-hands training and, have Uncle Jimmy teach him some combat. And he's going to talk about the NFL and this latest fire starter just laid down by Jason. Second of all, we have the first lady of the Fearless family. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about Shamika, the real Michelle. She's going to be here to grace us with her presence, and she's going to be talking about this new show on HBO Max, starring Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman, calling it Santa Inc. And hopefully Jason's not going to let her get out of here without getting her opinion on the Deion Sanders-Brittany Renner entanglement. And last and certainly not least, we got the enforcer. Rashad McCants is going to be back with us. And we're going to get his unedited take on the Deion Sanders-Brittany Renner situation as well. Hey, man, I hope y'all going to enjoy the show. You know what time it is. It's Mr. Button's time. It's time to hit the subscribe. You know what he likes, so give it to him. And no, it's not free ribs and back rubs. It's just simply 5 stars. So it's that time, y'all. Let's release the doves. Let's release the hounds. It's that time to type dilly dilly if you feel me. And welcome back the chocolate Chewbacca of Nashville, Jason Whitlock.
All right, thank you, Uncle Jimmy. And I will get to Patrick Mahomes and probably debunk a little bit of this stuff Uncle Jimmy's saying. I do think there's a little bit of reason to be concerned with Patrick Mahomes, but I'm going to start by talking about a different quarterback before I get to Patrick Mahomes. And TJ Moe is actually here in studio with me. I'm going to start this fire about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And TJ Moe is going to help me fan those flames on Lamar Jackson. But stick around. We're also going to talk about Patrick Mahomes. But it's Monday. Let's get the show rolling. Let's get the fire started. I'll start by telling you that last week, a dear friend of mine texted me about the consistent criticism her coworkers were directing at her. The criticism, she says, is tinged with sexism and jealousy. My friend is in real estate. Her results are quantifiable and impressive. Her success isn't subjective or debatable. So I advised her that criticism is the background music of success. It's one of my favorite sayings. I said she should let the music play. It's great music. So should the fans of the Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. If Lamar's ever going to return to his MVP level of play, he'll need to face the music, the harsh criticism that goes along with being a franchise quarterback. On Sunday, CBS broadcaster Tony Romo politely insinuated that Jackson overthrew tight end Mark Andrews on a two-point conversion play that would have won the game for the Ravens. The pass fell incomplete and Baltimore lost 20-19 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's take a look at the clip and listen to Romo's commentary.
Oh, what a gutsy call.
I love it.
What a gutsy call.
I think most people know these two coaches, this is why they've been here so long.
30th time.
This is the rivalry. Ben Roethlisberger, I think your season's on the line right here, Pittsburgh fans.
Here we go. 30th time between Tomlin and Harbaugh. What a decision this is. The game hinges on one play. Jackson flings it. Andrews can't get to it. Could not reel it in. Incomplete.
Unbelievable. It was a great play call. Andrews is open. Lamar, though, has the great T.J. Watt in his face. It's not an easy throw. The ball just has to be flicked with a little bit of height. Oh, and it's 1 inch from Baltimore going to 9-3, but instead, the Steelers are alive.
He was right there. It was there for the taking. So much hinging on a matter of the pass being just a bit too far wide.
And the crazy thing is, even if it was 1 more inch, right, he could have tipped it to himself even.
Which he's done. We showed it earlier. He's done it so many times before. You got the onside kick coming up. It's not.
All right, so across social media, people pretended Romo unfairly ripped Jackson. Jackson's defenders pointed to the pressure T.J. Watt applied on Jackson. They blamed Andrews for dropping a pass that hit his one outstretched hand. Look, it was a bad pass. It needed to be arched and dropped in over Andrews' shoulder as he faded toward the pylon and the goal line. Tony Romo played quarterback in the NFL for a long time. He knows exactly how that pass needed to be thrown. There was nothing unfair about the critique of Jackson. After a 5-1 start to the season and talk of Jackson winning his second MVP trophy, the Ravens have lost 3 of their last 6 games. Worse, in his last 6 starts, Jackson has thrown 8 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Even worse, in his last 11 starts this season, Jackson has thrown more touchdowns than interceptions in just 5 of the games. For the first time in his 4-year career, Jackson is raising serious questions about whether the Ravens should view him as their long-term solution at quarterback. There's an idiom in sports that applies to Jackson. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. This season, as a passer, Jackson isn't getting better. The timing of his decline couldn't be more problematic. This coming offseason, the Ravens should be offering Jackson a mammoth contract extension. 2 months ago, after Jackson threw for 442 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Colts, it was easy to envision Jackson getting a contract that exceeded Patrick Mahomes' $500 million deal with the Chiefs. What is Jackson worth today? How good will he be 2 years from now? The best thing for Jackson at this moment is criticism. It fueled his shocking rise from late first-round draft pick to the most valuable player. Criticism and skepticism are raw vegetables for competitors. They don't taste great going down, but nothing is better fuel for your body, mind, spirit, and attitude. Michael Jordan invented critics. Tom Brady hunts for critics and skeptics on a daily basis. Muhammad Ali's critics drove him to become the greatest. Social media, social justice warriors, the pundits at ESPN and Fox Sports spend their days trying to protect black athletes from criticism. They think worship builds black men. Worship is an act that should be reserved for Jesus and Jesus alone. It cripples everyone else. Men can't handle worship. Why do you think so many celebrities lack self-awareness and surrender to drugs, alcohol, illicit sex, and mental instability? The way prominent black athletes are coddled in modern culture reminds me of one of the most powerful scenes from the movie Remember the Titans, the story of the legendary high school football coach Herman Boone, as played by Denzel Washington. Boone scolded one of his white assistant coaches for protecting the black players from criticism. Watch Denzel lay it all out here.
Now you think you're doing these boys a favor, taking them aside every time I come down on them, protecting them from big bad Boone. You're cutting my legs from under me.
Some of the boys just don't respond well to public criticism. I tell them what they need to know, but I don't humiliate them in front of the team.
Which boys you talking about? Which ones you talking about? I come down on Bertier, I don't see you coddle him. Come down on Sunshine, don't see you grab his hand, take him off to the side. Which boys you talking about? Now, I may be a mean cuss, but I'm the same mean cuss with everybody out there on that football field. The world don't give a damn about how sensitive these kids are, especially the young black kids. You ain't doing these kids a favor by patronizing them. You're crippling them. You're crippling them for life.
That is music to my ears. I tell people this all the time. No one gets upset. No one in care. I used to light up Carl Peterson, Marty Schottenheimer, anybody, the quarterbacks, anybody in a Chiefs uniform, and then, oh my God, you criticized LeBron. Oh, you done sold out. You criticized LeBron. Why are you so hard on these black athletes? No one cares when I light up white athletes, coaches, executives, but they panties all get in a bunch, and oh my God, you're Colin Kaepernick. How can you criticize Colin Kaepernick? Criticism is a sign of respect, a byproduct of high expectations. I criticize Lamar Jackson because I respect him and have high expectations for him. I was skeptical of his NFL prospects initially. He earned my respect with his approach to the game, his no-excuse attitude, and his exceptional play. The people making excuses for Lamar Jackson don't respect him and have low expectations for him. The people trying to stop the criticism music from playing don't want Jackson to succeed or don't know what it takes to succeed at the highest level. Whatever the motivation, they're stupid and they're wrong. This whole little, and trust me, what Romo said, what Jim Nance said, that ain't no criticism. Not no harsh criticism. It's a pointing out a fact. Lamar Jackson is struggling right now, and he's struggling this season after a very hot start. And criticism, skepticism, public questioning of his play is exactly what he needs right now, because it's going to motivate him and take him to a higher level. Or if he folds and doesn't respond, that's on him. But people ran around for years coddling and covering up for Cam Newton. And Cam Newton is still in delusion. That's why as soon as Cam got back on the field after the Patriots cut him and he missed half the NFL season, he gets back on the field and makes one play and starts yelling and screaming, I'm back, nothing's changed, because he's still in that delusional state that he's been left in because the media and the public and everybody coddles Cam, because if there's any criticism of Cam, oh my God, you're racist. It's been that way from start to finish. White athletes get lit up on a daily basis for doing damn near anything. And you know what? That's what makes them great. You can say whatever you want about Tom Brady. You can question him for having a MAGA hat in his locker. You can say anything. I can remember going back, this ain't a football analogy, but I can remember the crap Ryan Lochte, the Olympic swimmer, got into down in Brazil. And people lit him up like he went down there and committed armed robbery. And he really didn't do anything, but he got lit up and criticized. It made him better. Criticism makes you stronger if you're man enough to take it. Are we man enough? Lamar, I believe, is man enough. Are his critics man and woman enough to leave him alone and let him work it out? All this damn coddling, the way this culture has changed, remember the Titans win the Oscars for Best Picture or something, probably? I know it was successful. And how this culture has changed, how you can't even make scenes like that in a movie anymore. TJ Moe was a much better athlete than I was, more successful, played in the SEC, played at Mizzou. You started for 3 years or 4?
I did not play at all my first year. I was a true freshman that had no business being on the field, and then started for 3 years after that.
Yeah, TJ Moe, much more successful than I was. Am I right here that criticism is actually a vegetable?
Oh, absolutely. Who is the single athlete that we all, for my lifetime at least, I was born in 1990, so this was already true, just about when I was 5 years old, this was true. The single athlete you say, who is inarguably the greatest at their sport? It is Michael Jordan. We all just watched this documentary where he said, and I took that personally, 10,000 times. He was so respected and so beloved that he didn't get any criticism, and he knew that was his vegetable, so he made it up himself over and over. I think criticism creates opportunity, and it reveals character over and over and over again. And when you strip that away from someone, then you are making the decision for them to not allow their growth. Truly, there's nothing worse you can do to someone than to lie to their face, because this is essentially what it is. You are telling Lamar, don't worry, buddy. This is not your fault. You don't have anything to worry about. We will take care of you. Well, what that does, that creates resentment in the locker room, because you're blaming someone. If you're not winning games and the guys on offense are not producing, well, normally you'd look at the quarterback and say, he obviously missed that throw. Or we could talk about the 7 sacks that he took that game. If we're going to blame him, if we're not going to blame him for anything, we're in big trouble here, because we're giving him all sorts of credit for being a guy that runs for 1,000 yards, but suddenly we can't avoid sacks. There's obvious criticism to be had here, but if we're unwilling to do any of it, there's a lot of teammates looking around wondering, do we get to blame Lamar? Can we have our own conversations in here? Because he sure seems like he's off limits.
The 7 sacks, there's an argument that he's holding the ball too long. Is that the argument you're selling? There's another argument that his offensive line's not playing as well.
Well, like I said, yes, he's holding the ball too long if you're watching the games. I think that's obvious. But I think the larger point is we give him so much credit for being the guy, okay, he's not the most effective passer all the time, but his legs are so useful he makes up for it. Well, why are we taking 7 sacks then? Because you should be the guy that can escape and make positive yards, or at the very least, not lose a ton of yards over and over again. There are only 2 teams outside of the Ravens that have more sacks than Lamar Jackson himself. Remember, Lamar missed a game. They had 6 sacks that game that he missed. So obviously the offensive line's not good. But there are only 2 teams in the entire league that have more sacks than Lamar Jackson has taken himself. There's something there. There's some criticism to be had, but we're so unwilling to even allow him to address that. This is not a kid that needs help with criticism. He's a guy that wears around the T-shirt, nobody cares, work harder, okay? His attitude is bring it. This is a guy that didn't hire an agent. He's not afraid of criticism. He doesn't need anybody to coddle him. As far as I can tell, if you go read the Rolling Stones article from last week, I don't think he's vaccinated either. So he's a guy that as we go, he's doing things that brings criticism. Have you heard it? Because I haven't.
No, I mean, they're not. No, Lamar Jackson is off limits. Social media has done that. The pundit class at ESPN and Fox Sports has done that. If you criticize Lamar Jackson, either you're a sellout, me, or you're racist, you, or white people, or Tony Romo and Jim Nantz. And I honestly say this. I'm rooting for Lamar Jackson, love his attitude, love what he represents, respect the fact that he's not vaccinated. The reason I'm criticizing, like my expectations for him are very high, and I mean, I hate to go super duper big picture, but we need to do it. One of the reasons this culture and this whole little coddling of black athletes is going on is because when you emasculate the family and remove the man from the family situation and the day-to-day engagement with their sons and even their daughters, but particularly their sons. My dad, I've not had a harsher critic than my dad. And it was because he loved me. And it's because he wanted the best for me. And so there was nothing that I did until the day that he died at age 76. And I was well into my 30s or 40s at that time when he passed, and I had far exceeded my father's level of success and was responsible for my father's well-being and blah, blah, blah. But he was still my harshest critic. And that's what baffles me about the people and their dealings with Lamar Jackson and a lot of these other athletes is that people that actually have high expectations for them, want to see them do well, those are the people that will publicly criticize them and call out what they're doing wrong, because I believe Lamar is capable of correcting it and do it, because I've seen it in the past. I've seen him play better than what he's playing this season. Now, you, TJ, we've talked on. You've raised some questions to me last night when we were talking about this game and talking about Lamar's performance this year. Is you think his throwing motion, his sidearm throwing motion, is a problem that may not be fixable?
This is true. Part of this is from personal experience. I played quarterback in high school, obviously at a substantially lower level than Lamar Jackson. I wasn't even wanted as a college quarterback. But I can tell you, when you throw at 3/4 arm, when you throw sidearm, you are begging for inconsistencies. The reason we talk about quarterback mechanics all the time, if you watch, I got to spend a year with the Patriots. Tom Brady would stand up in the weight room while the rest of us were working out, and he would stand there and practice his throwing motion over and over and over without a ball, while the rest of us are sitting there doing bench press, and he would say, I'm not here to bench press 225 pounds. I'm here to be a good football player. He would practice his mechanics over. I mean, he would do it. Obviously, he was still working out. He would stand there and do 10 air reps with no ball. He'd look down at his feet, make sure they were set. They were the width apart that he wanted. He'd turn his hips. He would make sure everything, all the timing was set. This is in 2013, after he had been to 5 Super Bowls. Okay, now he's been to whatever it is, 4 or 5 more. This is the proper mechanics. That's all he cares about, working on how to be that consistent in exactly the same way every single time. There are the rare guys like Patrick Mahomes, who we will get to at some point here, who can do it over and over and over again. Brett Favre, Phillip Rivers. Those are guys that are so rare. They can do it on the run. They can go overhand, underhand. It doesn't really matter. But even those guys are erratic. The guys who are absolutely consistent over and over and over again, you can take a snapshot of them from the waist up all the time, Aaron Rodgers, and it looks the exact same. You don't know where he is. You can actually Photoshop him into another video, and it looks the exact same way. So this is just who he's going to be. So there is a part of us that should change our expectations that he's going to have the game like he had against the Colts, where he had like 86% completion percentage and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, where he couldn't miss because he's one of the most gifted athletes on the planet. And then he's going to have a lot of games where he can't complete a pass. That's just who he is.
So that raises the question, if you buy my narrative and the idiom that a lot of coaches preach, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If he's not likely to get better as a passer, what would you do as if you were running the Baltimore Ravens? You get to this offseason after his 4th year in the NFL. This is when quarterbacks, generally speaking, come off their rookie contracts and get those big multi-year, huge contracts. This is when Patrick Mahomes, I believe, got his money. What do you do if you're the Baltimore Ravens? TJ Moe, not whoever's running the Ravens, not John Harbaugh. What would TJ Moe tell the Baltimore Ravens? How should they assess paying Lamar Jackson, and what type of results can they expect moving forward?
Well, so far as payment, it is interesting. You're actually dealing directly with him. There's no agent involved. And this is one of the rare guys. I don't know if there's another guy that we really know about in the NFL who does this. So you're going to see what he thinks he's worth, not what his agent. He's not listening to a guy who's trying to tell him what he's worth. You're going to get the honest Lamar Jackson. That I find really interesting because that's going to tell us a lot about where he thinks he is in his own progression. If I were trying to maximize Lamar Jackson's value moving forward, I would change the entire offense. There have been 3 or 4 guys that we have watched fizzle out because it's not like college where you can, the field is 53 1/3 yards and you use the whole thing. It's just different in the NFL. Your hashes are way closer. It's a much more clumped up game. And so things work in college and the athletes aren't as good. In the NFL, it takes you a year, 2, if you're really good, 3 years to figure out a quarterback. We've seen this with RG3. He was Rookie of the Year, out of the league and worthless. Now he's working for ESPN. We saw this with Cap, took the 49ers to Super Bowl, out of the league, worthless. We may be seeing this right now with Josh Allen.
You know, you just made people crash and burn with that Cap statement. You know, a lot of people think, he should be signed today. But anyway, Josh Allen, that's a pretty good reference.
Josh Allen has got a rocket arm, and he's one of the faster people in the NFL, which is unbelievable if you've seen him run. But people are catching up. You're watching him right now where he had his upswing last year, maybe figuring him out. Cam Newton, MVP 2015, went to Super Bowl, fell right back down. It is the better athletes in the league that rely a little bit more on their size, Cam Newton, than their arm and mechanics, and you catch up to them. So how would you go about trying to utilize these guys long term? Change the offense. Figure out a new wrinkle, a new way to use them, and then they have to figure that out. But you can't, the problem we have is we say, okay, this offensive coordinator needs to be with this quarterback and they need to get comfortable together so that they can be efficient. But then the defense gets just as comfortable with you. Changing it up is not the worst thing in the world. If I was trying to maximize Lamar Jackson, that's what I'd do.
How do you change up? And you've dodged the question of what you would pay. I hear it's a nice dodge because you've suggested a solution. They need a new offense. I think that's difficult there's only so many different things you can do, I think, in the NFL. Before I ask for what wrinkle to the offense could they do with Lamar Jackson?
There's different levels of this. We've seen it. We saw Chip Kelly has his own version. We saw that where there's minimal running, but there's a ton of jet sweeps and there's a ton of misdirection. And so you have to have the right athletes around it to do that. It can't always be the straightforward power running stuff that the Ravens have always been. So you just figure out ways to get your slots more involved in the running game. Those guys are now running pitch path coming off. You having one guy come across, you fake the jet sweep, have the other guy, the running back now is running pitch path, and you actually make him a pseudo runner. The thing about Lamar Jackson is I think you need to treat him like a running back. So to answer your question about the pay, you do not pay him. It is the same as paying an old running back. how valuable are running backs in this league today? For years, we wouldn't pick them in the first round. Now they're coming back. Ezekiel Elliott went fourth. It happens occasionally, but you know that they're going to run their course, and then they're not long-term solutions. So if you view him through that prism of he is a very, very valuable running back that you have an extra blocker for because you don't have to waste a quarterback who's just standing there to hand it to him, I wouldn't pay him.
You don't pay Lamar Jackson, and all hell breaks loose. You know, because people say, John Harbaugh, he got a contract extension off of Lamar Jackson that they've exploited and used up, and now they're discarding Lamar Jackson. And you know what's coming right behind that? That's racist. That's racist. How can you do that to Lamar Jackson? That's racist.
Two highest paid guys in the league are both black, right? Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So we can start there.
Dak Prescott's in there too at number 3. Yeah.
But the thing is like
that's racist.
That's right. We can go down the line and say 5 years from now, if Lamar does not develop his arm, who do you want? We can go down the list. Russell Wilson. You can even throw Dak in there as an arm guy. I don't know that I would buy that. But we can go down the list. He might be 15th. I mean, you actually look at if his arm doesn't develop and you know he's slowing down. Keep in mind, we talked about sacks a second ago. Eventually, that starts to take a toll. It's one thing if he's running the ball and he can dodge his way out of bounds or do what receivers do and sort of duck under. It's another thing when you're standing in the pocket getting crushed. So you're not going to protect him, and then you're telling him, don't worry about developing as a passer. We're just going to utilize you in the run game, or we're going to hope you get back to the MVP form that you were in 2019 before people figured you out. If I'm evaluating Lamar Jackson, he is a running back to me, and you treat him as such.
If I'm right, the Ravens are 8-4 right now. And look at these last 5 games that they have. I think we got a graphic here. They got to play at Cleveland. They host Green Bay, at Cincinnati, and then they host the Rams and the Steelers. There's no gimmies left on that. Pittsburgh is the closest thing to a gimme, and Pittsburgh just beat them last night. We could be they're 8-4. They could easily, you could look at that and say, woo, this got 10-7 written all over it. Could be 9-8 written all over it. And if Lamar Jackson in a contract year goes 10-7, 9-8, I think we're going to hear people complain, that's racist. That's racist. They not paying Lamar what he worth. They done kicked him to the curb. It's a different version of Colin Kaepernick. I'm not sure if I want. All right, I want to move on to another one of my favorite quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, who we saw Uncle Jimmy at the top of the show. He's a homer for Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, I'm a homer for Patrick Mahomes. He plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. But Patrick Mahomes, I'm shocked. 25 TDs, 12 interceptions, I think, right now for the season. And he's not the same guy. And I go all the way back. We were having this discussion earlier this morning. I go back. Something's up with the Chiefs offense ever since the Super Bowl weekend. And Andy Reid's son got in that car accident. And that offense and that team hasn't been the same. I know they beat the Broncos last night, 22-9, but Mahomes is not playing at a high level. You said something, you followed his career at Texas Tech closer than I did. You think we're seeing the Patrick Mahomes that was at Texas Tech?
Yeah, I think there's 2 big things in play here. We'll start at Texas Tech. I followed him closely at Texas Tech. He was unbelievable. I mean, he was appointment television back then, but he played at Texas Tech, so I was the only guy watching him. The defenses were unbelievably bad. If you go through the years, 2014, the defense allowed 41.2 points a game. 2015, they allowed 43.6 points a game. In 2016, it was 43.5. That was bottom 4 in the country every single year. So he had to go out and outscore the worst defense in the country every time that he played at Texas Tech, and he knew that going into the game. Well, he had a really good offensive coach in Cliff Kingsbury, and he was basically given the green light to go take any risk he wanted to. So he did. If you watch him, I mean, his stats were pretty unbelievable. I think his final year there, he's a junior. I think he threw 10 interceptions and 40-something touchdowns. So a 4-1 obviously is magnificent. But if you go watch the film, there was a lot of risky throws that college DBs couldn't take advantage of. And it happened a ton. The Big 12, certainly when he played, not necessarily known for their defense. And so he was tossing things up and making things happen because he had to outscore the worst defenses literally in the country. The other thing that I think is going on, well, to extend that to the Chiefs at the beginning of this year, their defense has been unbelievably good the last 5 years, the last 5 games. The first 5 games, they allowed 32.6 points per game. They were unbelievably bad. He went right back to college Patrick Mahomes saying 32 points per game in the NFL is equivalent to 40-something points in college. So he's saying, I have to outscore them. Now they've turned the corner now. They're only allowing 11 points per game in the last 5. So they've been really good, but Patrick Mahomes hasn't turned that off. The other thing I think's in play is your Coach Reid thing. I think he's not been the same. I actually think Patrick Mahomes, he's outside of his optimal performance zone. You know, he's got his, obviously, he needs to take a certain level of risk to be himself, but if he takes too much, this is who he turns into. I think when Britt Reid got in the car accident, Patrick Mahomes was the only guy pulling his weight in that Super Bowl. If you watch some of those plays, I mean, he's got his iconic play that would, had they turned it around, been on a poster forever, upside down, throwing a pass that hit his receiver in the face in the end zone and got dropped. He was very good. I think Andy Reid, and we could turn this into a discussion about Eric Bieniemy too, I think Reid's the offensive genius who has not been the same. So now you have a guy who's not scheming up ways to get your receivers running wide open down the field, and you have a defense that you think is not performing well. Well, suddenly Patrick Mahomes thinks he has to do absolutely everything, and it's not working out well.
Patrick Mahomes certainly puts on a Superman cape, and it blows up in his face from time to time. So I kind of like that narrative of his mindset going into games is like, man, I got to go out here and outscore these people. And he also may be like, and my head coach is suffering right now with things going on in his personal life, maybe can't spend as much energy and focus on the team as he, because I'm just sorry, if my son was in a battle for his life, I would be distracted as well. And I think, and I've said this from the outset, Andy Reid's been carrying Eric Bieniemy, and so Eric Bieniemy can't pick up the offense right now when Andy Reid is distracted, and Patrick Mahomes is paying a price for that. We got an interesting graphic that I'll get to, and then we'll move on. But the last 5 home games for Patrick Mahomes, in the previous 23 home games, Mahomes recorded one home game where his passer rating was below 75. His last 5 home games, his passer rating has been below 75 in each one of those. From 2018 to 2020, Mahomes recorded 2 games, 46 starts, with a QB rating below 75. This season, he has recorded a QB rating below 75 in 6 of 12 starts. Something, and we didn't even talk about, Patrick Mahomes is a new father. That's some extra stress and burden on him. And, you know, he got all that new money as well. But anyway, Patrick Mahomes, I got to probably agree with Uncle Jimmy a little bit. I'm not as concerned with him as I am concerned with the things around him, from Bieniemy to Andy Reid's distraction to the whole Britt Reid thing hanging over the team. All right, stick around. Shamika Michelle is going to join us next. We're going to talk about Good Santa on HBO Max. I watched some of this. I'm sorry, Good Santa. I'm thinking of Good Ranchers. Santa Inc. on HBO Max. But before we do any of that, I want to tell you about my good friends at Good Ranchers. I'm going to be a good Santa Claus because Good Ranchers got all kinds of deals for you. It is Christmas time and you're probably looking for the perfect gifts. Don't buy another gadget that ends up breaking before New Year's Eve. Instead, give them Good Ranchers, a box of 100% American meat that's steakhouse quality. From parents to siblings, friends to co-workers, and everyone in between, They'll all love the delicious cuts Good Ranchers delivers straight to their door. Give a gift they'll remember for years to come. Get your Good Ranchers box or gift card today. 'Tis the season for open hearts and full stomachs. Use my code FEARLESS for $20 off and free shipping. Just go to goodranchers.com/fearless or use the promo code FEARLESS at checkout to take advantage of this special holiday offer today. There's Good Ranchers and Fearless Army soldiers in your family. Send them the perfect gift, food from Good Ranchers, American farm-raised food. Support Good Ranchers because they support you, they support me, they support our point of view. Shamoke Show, Shamika Michelle. Next. All right, welcome back. What a segue from talking about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes to talking about Santa Inc. HBO Max has put out, it's a 6 or 7 part series. Each episode's about 20, 25 minutes. It's a cartoon series called Santa Inc. They say it's an adult cartoon, but they know who's gonna watch cartoons about Christmas and Santa Claus, kids. This thing is one of the sickest things I've ever seen. Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman should be run out. They should be canceled for putting this out. Here's a little excerpt and clip from Santa Inc.
You gotta get intimate with that jolly bitch.
I know you're right, but do you really have to call me bitch every time you say something?
Yes, bitch, because it's empowering to call you bitch.
Let's go over what we know. Santa and the board are all male and all white. They play golf, drink, smoke cigars, say things like, don't ever marry your mistress.
Just so you know, the women of the North Pole make fun of one of your dicks. Have fun wondering whose it is.
That's only just a small taste of the profanity and the wickedness of this cartoon. There's one of them reindeers or whatever in the first episode is talking about having 3- and 4-way sex with other reindeers. And I'm like, this is clearly directed at kids. The thing is so woke, so, racist. I can't believe it. I can't believe that HBO put this out. I can't believe that Sarah Silverman and Seth Rogen would even formulate this. And so I wanted to talk to a parent about this. And I know, TJ, you and your wife got a kid, right?
7-month-old.
Yeah, 7-month-old. And Shamika Michelle has 3 kids. Most of them are grown. I think she's got a 16-year-old and a grown daughter and one in college. But anyway, I just had to get other people's perspective. So I asked Shamika to watch. And Shamika, I'm just wondering, did this thing strike you the same way that it struck me?
Jason, first of all, I thought it was funny that they got rid of the black man who was going to be the successor to Santa Claus in the first episode. And then the next 3 episodes, the feminists spent the entire time trying to be equal to the white man. So I was thinking, did they do this on purpose to mess with people like me? Or is this really life imitating so-called art? This is why that I don't care what color the feminist is, she can kiss my ass, because this is exactly what is happening in real life. All they want to do is get rid of the black man, which is why I turn my nose up to black feminists who joins in this foolishness. Every male in this show was either a misogynist or somebody that was just an asshole, or he was a beta male. There were no positive men in this show at all. And so you know, people say you get this out of just a cartoon. I got this all out of a cartoon. And it made me feel like I was Damon Wayans in the show In Living Color when he was the prison guard, like the proclamation of the ejaculation when he was the prisoner, because this is what I got out of the show. And I just couldn't believe that what my eyes were seeing. I just couldn't.
Yeah, so the gist of the show is that Sarah Silverman's character, little white girl, Jewish girl, and again, this is what they say in the cartoon, I'm not making it up, that has been chosen as the successor to Santa Claus. And literally for the first 10 minutes of the show, there was a black man who appeared to be heterosexual that was going to be the successor of the show, but they got rid of him. He took a job at Amazon within the first 10 minutes of the show and left the North Pole, and that was it. That was the last straight black man to be seen at the North Pole. And then I'm telling you, the other thing that I love was the reindeer, the little female reindeer, and who, to me, tell me if I'm right or wrong, Shamika, they certainly presented her as if she were a black woman, at least by voice, and it's voiced by a black woman. And then Rudolph, I think, was a black male reindeer, and they were at each other's throats, fighting out in the street, couldn't get along, and rivals and pitted against each other. And look, maybe that may be the most accurate thing in the whole movie or the whole cartoon, but I'm sitting there like, also, this is what Sarah Silverman and Seth Rogen, this is what two white Jews think of black people and think of how they fight out in the street. I mean, this was like it wasn't a bloodbath, but they were bucking out in the middle of the street like the Bloods and the Crips, with all the white people standing around watching. And I just don't know how many other did they leave a stereotype off the table?
They didn't, because don't forget, once the black man was gone, she found out he was a drug dealer. Remember, he had been giving everybody those meth chocolate bars. So they covered pretty much every stereotype they could.
TJ, you listen to two black people talk about this thing. Anyway, I shouldn't even set it up that way, but as a father, as someone, and this is personal to me because I love Christmas cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I love them. And at 54, I can watch Christmas cartoons. Whatever the one where I'm Mr. Heat Miser, he's Mr. Love Santa Claus is Coming to Town or whatever. That's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. But how did any of this strike you?
I have learned, I'm 31 years old now, so you learned, unfortunately, to view the world through politics, which is just the most unfortunate thing you could possibly have. But if you don't, it's a bit naive. You learn there's a lot of manipulation. This was basically the Democratic platform on display. The patriarchy, don't have children, it's the worst thing ever, abortion jokes, sexism, racism, old fat bald white guy over there, Santa is the demon, he's out smoking cigars. That's the way they view the world, as you guys pointed out. And it's, I don't know if you noticed, the cartoon was actually created. It wasn't like a normal cartoon. It's not like South Park. The Rudolph cartoon the one we actually like, it's created the same way. That's what it looks like. And so they did it differently. It's like, okay, do not insult us. This is not for adults. This is for children, and it is further indoctrination. Let's start spoon feeding them some of this crap early so that it's mainstream. It's okay. They're sixth graders. Well, maybe you are a girl. Maybe you're a boy. We'll decide later. It is indoctrination, it is evil, and it should be called as such.
Shamika, you made a point of referencing how they portrayed Mrs. Claus. And I mean, and I'm just telling you, this is directed at kids, and there's a scene of Mrs. Claus going down on Santa Claus in the bedroom. This is directed at kids, but they portrayed Mrs. Claus as a complete clown and insignificant.
Right. They have her saying in here that she thought she was going to be an agent for change, but she ended up just being a wife. So I feel like they even tried to diminish the role of a wife and how important a wife is. She talked about how she hadn't had oral sex from Santa in 20 years. So they made her appear as if she was nothing more but his, love slave. He didn't listen to her. He didn't want to please her. He didn't have real conversation with her. And she was just so unhappy. And so that made me upset as well, because I realized the role that wives play to husbands, which I feel like is very important. But in this, they were trying to make it seem like a wife was just a terrible role to have. You even had the wife who had the baby who acted as if she was a single mother that called her husband a bitch and just pretty much ran the house and acted like she had to do everything. She went to work. She took care of the baby. It really made women look terrible unless you were that woman that was trying to compete with the white man.
So Seth Rogen thinks any of the criticism of this cartoon and show is all a reflection of white supremacy. And so maybe we're holding a white supremacy rally right now, me, you, and TJ. What do you think of his deflection that, criticism of this is just a reflection of how white supremacists we are?
Well, I guess maybe he thinks that white people are the only people that can have a brain and realize that this is pathetic. It's a pathetic excuse for art. It's not good. It's not funny. So maybe that is Seth Rogen feeling like only white people can actually think about something and see through his bullshit. Because, of course, I'm not a white supremacist, but I thought this show was trash, period.
TJ, being the resident white supremacist on this show, is your criticism of this coming out of your feelings of supremacy?
So I'm told, yes. So I'm told. No, I will tell you that I think when I imagine Seth Rogen and who he is, this character of Santa is actually a pretty good representation. So I think he did a good acting job of himself. It makes a lot of sense.
Huh? I'm just. Some people may be sitting there, why is Whitlock talking about this? Because this is what I keep trying to tell my friends and anybody that doesn't get where the left is going. They're after your kids. They're trying to reprogram your kids. They don't want your kids to be a reflection of your worldview, particularly if your worldview has anything to do with Christianity, Jesus Christ, God, a biblical worldview. These cartoons, this type of stuff in popular culture is directed to indoctrinate and corrupt your kids from the values that some of you, I don't know what percentage, but most of our audience are probably trying to instill in your kids. This is satanic. I'm just sorry, there's no other way to describe this, to put this kind of messaging directed at kids. Because this whole thing is directed at kids. The only adults that would watch this, because again, I've hate watched some of it so I could talk about it. But the only other group of people that would watch this would have to get so high on some sort of drug or so drunk on alcohol, and it's like, hey, we're having a party, and so let's watch this Santa Inc. while we're high and drunk, and then maybe you'll find it funny in that regard. But it's really directed at kids, immature, simple-minded people, and I don't say that derisively or disparagingly. Young people tend to be simple-minded. It's no different than how I felt after watching the Colin Kaepernick thing on Netflix. I was like, this is an after-school deal directed at kids. Anybody of any intelligence or sophistication can see how BS this Colin Kaepernick thing is. It's all of this stuff they're doing is directed at kids and to corrupt their minds, and we got to stand against it. Shamika, thank you so much. Appreciate you. We're going to keep it moving. I wish I could keep you around, Shamika, for this next conversation, because I'm going back in on Deion Sanders and Brittany Renner. Me and Uncle Jimmy talked about it on Friday. Today, we're going to bring in Rashad McCants, former NBA player, former NBA first-round pick, dated a Kardashian. I think he knows a thing or two about groupies and whether it was appropriate or not for Deion Sanders to bring in the Instagram attention whore, Brittany Renner. And again, you guys have heard me say early, years ago, I was addicted to Brittany's Instagram feed, bundle of Brittany. This 5-6 years ago when I was living out in LA, I spent a lot of time perusing her Instagram. I'm glad I kicked that habit. But anyway, Rashad McCants.
It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. We're going to roll out to Las Vegas and bring in Rashad McCants. On Friday, we talked a bit about Deion Sanders bringing in Instagram model Brittany Renner, who's kind of infamous. She ended up getting pregnant by P.J. Washington, young kid in the NBA. She's, been attached to a wide variety. She's like the African-American version of the Kardashians. She's bounced around from, celebrity athlete. At one point, she was Colin Kaepernick's side piece, I think early in his career in San Francisco. And so now she's Instagram famous, has millions of followers. And she's had this baby by P.J. Washington. And I think they briefly got married and then quickly went the other direction and ended their relationship. But she's the stereotypical, very famous groupie. Deion, as the head coach at Jackson State, for some reason, brought her in to speak to his team. We played you a clip from that visit on Friday, but here's another clip from her appearance with the Jackson State football team.
Instagram and they see you. And what happens? They try to get off in them DMs and kind of take us on the journey of how this is played out.
I mean, honey, I feel like my DMs, it's like a Nike store. There's nothing but checks. So it just, for me, I feel like
Hold on. They missed that game.
Nothing but blue checks.
They missed that game right there. She says like a Nike store.
It's like a Nike store. There's nothing but blue checks. So honestly, when you reach a certain status, you can have the pick of the litter. So for me,
she don't mean checks, paper. She mean blue checks.
I'm talking heavy
Verified.
hitters. Some of y'all's favorite rappers, NBA players, football players. It's like, to me, once you reach that level just of popularity, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. And for me, my whole journey on here, I felt like my life almost felt like I was in Disney World, like I lived in Disney World. Like, you get to skip the line, you get privilege, like people just want to be next to you. They don't even see you as human anymore. And you can either, use it to your advantage and maybe abuse it, or you can, try to make something happen. So a lot of guys who are in my DM, you're in my DM because I'm Brittany Renner.
How is anything she said helpful, educational, uplifting beneficial to those athletes in the room? When you're Brittany Renner, it's like you're in Disney World and there's just a lineup of male penises all in my DMs and I just get my pick. I get whatever size I want, whatever flavor I want. It's all available for me because I'm Brittany Renner. Who puts that in front of a group of young men? That was like a hype video for young girls with no direction. You too can be Brittany Renner. If you shake your rear end well enough on Instagram and do enough crunches and stairmasters and whatever it takes to build up great abs and a great butt, you too can live in Disney World where athletes and rappers and the who's who, everybody, presidents, Trump, Biden, but Obama, they all DM me. They all want a piece. This was not a good look for Deion. This is two people in love with attention, Deion and Brittany Renner, who used a group of young boys to garner more attention for themselves. But that's just me, a fat old man talking. I want to bring in a young person who actually maybe has some experience in this lane. Rashad McCants, former first-round NBA draft pick, former Minnesota Timberwolf, national champion at North Carolina. Did Roy Williams ever bring any Instagram hoes to come speak to the North Carolina basketball team? And if he had, would it have been educational for you?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, it wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been like Prime Time's video back in 1989. And I remember it being called Must Be the Money. So you're looking at Deion, right? You're holding judgment on Deion. But that wasn't Deion in the video. That was Prime Time. Prime Time is back. Prime Time is back, and he brought the groupies in. He ready to go. He ready to show the players what the next side of life looks like when you get to the pros. And he wasn't sugarcoating it with this. So Deacon Deion that got the job just showed his true self. Prime Time. That's Prime Time showing the players what the distraction actually looks like. But it's full transparency. You got to look at me and who I am in this instance. I'm a fruit inspector here, right? So you got to look at the fruit, tell if it's rotten or not. I know by your fruit, Deion, that you picked the wrong fruit for the guys to actually pick from this tree. You could have picked anybody to give this example of what it looks like to be an athlete picking and choosing his spots at the next level, women to look out for. You got Emmitt Smith. You got people that you play. Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin, no, Prime Time is back. Deion done pretty much abandoned ship right now. So it looks like, Deion, he done kind of went left and said, I'm going to go prime because I need recruiting upgrades. I need to get some incentive to these black players to come down here and rock with me because we bring the strip club to the university.
I got to say, that's one of the things I thought about, that this was a clever version of the University of Louisville having strippers come to campus on the basketball. This is like a clever push the envelope. We basically have brought the world's most famous Instagram stripper or whatever, because she covers her nipples up, but that's about it on Instagram. Everything else is exposed, and he could have brought PJ Washington in to talk to those players and let him break down the dangers of falling in love with somebody you meet over Instagram, with falling in love with the forbidden fruit. And the other thing I don't like about this is there wasn't one football player from an HBCU drafted last year. And so I'm saying that to say Deion's locker room is not filled with NFL prospects. She wasn't talking to the Ohio State football team. She's talking to kids at an HBCU that just had a very nice season, but maybe one of those guys may get a sniff of coffee in the NFL, maybe one. And so they're never, this life that Deion is allegedly preparing them for, they're never going to have a blue check. So they're never going to be in her DMs or get any attention in her DMs. I just don't think he was trying to prepare those young boys. I said it on Friday, and I'm going to say it again. That looks like, I don't know whether it's true, but what it looks like is Deion wants to tap Brittany Renner. He wants a bundle of that Brittany.
Okay, look, we have to understand one thing, though, Whit. She's already gone on record saying that athletes are dumb and that women out there should use athletes for sex for a big check. Now, she came on record to say that, and then Deion invited her in. The same person that called us dumb is going to come in here and teach us how not to be dumb with women. So it's a total smack in the face from that standpoint. And you got to look at Deion. He has a great track record for investing in the next generation, Prime Academy. You know, he's done a lot of things. He's a game-changing performer. One of the greats. I look at him like I looked at Mike. But this move right here to bring in someone like Brittany and not bring in someone like your wife, Miss Tracy Edmonds, who is a lady, who is a woman, who presents herself to be something that you strive to go towards as a gentleman that's at an HBCU, and we're forming and creating new culture from the standpoint of Deion Sanders cultivating and creating a new environment for black athletes. You could put Brittany Renner up there as an example of who we're going after, who we should go after. I mean, I would be insulted if I'm not the example and epitome of what a woman should be or a man should be, if somebody's using the example and I'm next to you all the time. So it looks like, to me, if you're looking at a recruiting advantage, is this what Nick Saban is doing to bring kids into Alabama? Is this what it looks like when you're actually using recruiting tools to bring in kids? Deion Sanders don't need that. You got too many resources, too many relationships with real testimony to bring in an IG model that everybody just want to. It looks bad.
TJ, I want to ask you this. I don't know. And were you ever into Instagram?
Not really. I mean, it was around, and I have one, but.
Do you know the name Jen Stelter?
Never heard of her.
She would have been popular probably in your college days. She's the original Instagram butt model. In terms of her booty is the first one to go platinum on Instagram. And so if they had brought in Jen Stelter, and I'm showing you some pictures, and these are kind of older. This isn't her from her heyday. Okay. These are kind of her more recent ones. But if they had brought Jen Stelter in and she had put her number one asset on display as Brittany Renner did, if they brought her into the University of Mizzou to speak to your team, I said on Friday, if it was me, and they brought her into Ball State, anything that came out of her mouth would sound like the teacher on Charlie the Brown. Wah, 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 wah. I'd be so focused on her top assets that I couldn't hear anything she said, and nothing she said would register with me. And I would spend all my time debating, like, is my coach tapping that? And when he's done tapping it, do we have a shot? That would be the conversation I would anticipate going on in the locker room.
So my coach is a 65-year-old white guy, so the conversation would have been, how the hell did he pull this off to get her there? That's what we would have suggested. The big question is, I I didn't see the whole clip here of Deion, but I never saw her get to the, here are the demons, so therefore here's what you should do. She basically just said, here are the demons, good luck.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, what an idiotic approach, because if you want to develop men, you teach them values so that when they reach the situation, they know how to react. You don't give them the situation and say, look out, right? I mean, that's all he did. He said, look out, there's gonna be a really hot girl, like the one sitting right here, and she's gonna tempt you and make good decisions, okay? Well, how do you do that? We had something at Mizzou. What we actually did do, we brought in Navy SEALs. Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor, came in and spoke to us one year. They wanted to give us the very clear message that not all of you are going pro. In fact, probably very few, our team wasn't that good. Almost none of us went pro. So that what they're saying was, we have medical trainers here, and you need to know what they did to become men. So he's going to come up and talk today, and it's his presentation. Good luck. We did the same thing with our equipment manager. We did the same thing, down the line of like the men. And here are the values that you want to have if you want to have a successful life and family. And it's probably not going to be in the pros, so good luck. And so they helped instill those values. And we had the talks, but it was never something bad's going to happen, so look out. It was always, here are your values and apply them as you see fit.
And Rashad, he takes me to one of my points, because again, I like Deion. I try to support Deion. I don't pass judgment on Deion's walk. I've never dealt with the kind of fame and talent that Deion was blessed with, and I think that kind of fame and talent, there's a struggle to that. But Deion professes a deep faith. And that's what I find most disconcerting. Deion and I are basically the same age, same year coming out of high school, I believe. And I just don't understand how he jives this with his faith. Basically, he put the snake in the room and said, okay, guys, this is what the snake's gonna look like. Ask me after this is over, and I'm gonna tell you what the snake tastes like, and it tastes better than chicken, I can tell you that. But be careful. I just don't. Why wouldn't he? He's a follower. He's a Christian. Again, why isn't he putting people that reflect the values that he says he espouses? Why isn't he putting that in front of their face? And by putting Brittany Renner in front of their face, it creates the appearance that, like, man, Deion talks this faith stuff, but his values are really more Instagram model.
I agree. I mean, you got to look at this as a gimmicky stunt, and a cheap one at that, because for Brittany, it's a bonus. She's doing a tour right now. So she's been on multiple platforms talking about the same thing. So for Deion to pick her up along the tour and say, use my platform to increase your visibility, that's a gimmick. And for him to do it in a way where he's trying to teach young men something, and that just feeds into the left, when they're talking about the feminists, actually taking over what men say, what men think, how men feel. And now she's in there telling them, this is how you get into my DM and get my attention. You have to have a blue check. And even if you have a blue check, there's a long line. So you look at Deion and his walk, and like I call him Deacon Deion, because at some point it has to match up with prime time. Prime time was the old you. Deacon Deion is the new you. You are walking in this faith, and you bring this to the table as some type of example of what young men should strive for, or what you would say avoid. So if this is a young black woman that you're trying to rebuild and help her see that what she was doing was negative and wrong, you're putting her in a bad light now, because you're showing them what you shouldn't see, what you shouldn't be engaged with. But the whole conversation never hit. It never hit for me, because she never answered questions. She never gave them real direction. He never held her accountable for the lack of information she's given. And the real question though, since when does Deion Sanders not have enough information, wisdom, and knowledge to tell these guys exactly what to look forward to? Mr. Show Me the Money, he can't be all the information these young boys need on top of him and Michael Irvin in Dallas? Come on, man. Something going on. It's a gimmick to me.
So if they were to put you in front of those young boys, because you were first round draft pick, you won a national championship in North Carolina, you dated Khloe Kardashian, what would you be trying to tell young college athletes about the next phase of life, whether they make it in the pros or just out here in life? What would your message to them be?
It would be very easy and very simple. Your awareness and the people you keep around you is going to be that perception, how people look at you. And if she's a predator and everyone's calling her a predator, you're going to look like prey, depending on how you perceive yourself to people, what your perception is. So I would tell young kids, be wary of how you present yourself to the public. If you're presenting yourself as this flashy spender, you don't care about discretion, morals, integrity, you don't have any of these traditional values, they're going to take advantage of you. Because there's not an upbringing aspect of your character that can discern all of these different wicked ways from people that are trying to take advantage of you. And that's something we don't teach as men to even the younger men we have access to. PJ Washington should have never been any type of victim, because he has people around him that can discern whether or not you go after Jezebel or not, or you actually go after a woman. And so for Deion Sanders, it's unfortunate that he wouldn't put someone of a better stature in that position to explain that. But for me, I would definitely let these kids know that awareness and how you present yourself, how you first impressions, everything that you disclose to the public now on social media, you can't just throw it out there, because they're taking advantage of it. They're stalking, they're taking screenshots, they're figuring out a way to extort and exploit you. So be careful.
Thank you, Rashad. Great job. You know, TJ, one of the things I talk about all the time is like, people don't have private lives anymore. And John Thompson, the legendary college basketball coach, told people that people should have 3 lives: a private life, a personal life, and a public life. And no one wants to have a private life anymore. Everybody wants their private life to be public. That's what I've always called social media, from Twitter to Instagram. It's just a stage, and everybody just performs. And again, when you understand a stage, it brings out inauthenticity, or it makes you inauthentic, because you're performing. And so when you try to make your private life part of your performance, you just become inauthentic. And you end up presenting a side of yourself that just really needs to be private. And so to me, Deion, I don't think is married or whatever. If he wants to run around and engage with Brittany Renner, keep it in your private life, man. It doesn't need to be, Deion is in full recruiting mode, but he needs to be careful. Like, what you go fishing with will determine what you catch. And so Brittany Renner, and this whole thing is about recruiting, and look how much fun we having, and look, Deion done brought an Instagram model. Man, don't that look fun at Jackson State? You may attract some guys, but I don't know if they're guys you can win with. I don't know if they're guys who you can count on in the clutch, are going to add to the character and the culture that you're trying to create. You're going to attract clowns and people that are interested in clownish behavior. And I like, Deion's real goal seems to be he wants one of these Power 5 jobs. And he's competing with a lot of people that want those Power 5 jobs. And he's just put out a piece of video that if I'm in competition with Deion for a job, I just send that video to the athletic director, the school president, and be like, Deion's gonna be some fun, but man, he's going to create an atmosphere and a culture. And everybody, again, Florida State, Mizzou, Alabama, TCU, that Deion interviewed for, there's the level of trouble just amps up from Jackson State. Jackson State's really kind of off the radar, and I know Deion's brought them some attention. They won the SWAC, they went 11-1, but the level of temptation is much greater at these Power 5 schools, and the kind of trouble from Jameis Winston got into at Florida State, and we read stories about athletes getting in this kind of trouble. I'm just a school president and athletic director is like, man, Deion's going to invite the clown show to our campus, and we may win some games, but eventually it's going to blow up in scandal, and we'll all lose our jobs.
We saw this movie with Bobby Petrino on a motorcycle once upon a time. I think we've been down this road. It's interesting, you mentioned what kind of guy do you want to get there, and ultimately who can you win with? If you ask me why I went to Mizzou, I went to go play football, and then I picked a major. I cared first and foremost about football and knew it was a big enough school I could get a good degree that could get me somewhere. After watching that, he's going to find a whole bunch of guys that want to date Instagram models, and then they also would like to play football. I don't think that's the guys you want to have at your university. The second thing is, you are Deion Sanders. What do you have to prove? Did you really need to bring this girl in here to prove that you could? Your nickname is Primetime. Throw on your highlight clip and say, Mom and Dad, I'm going to help you build men. I've chosen to go to HBCU to help young black men. I want to turn you into men and turn you into people that our society will be proud of because you have succeeded. And along the way, I hope to get really good athletes that can go into the NFL and do some things there. And by the way, you can be Primetime too, and you'll get whatever Instagram model once you get there, and you deal with that. And if you got questions, I coach you. You got my you got my phone number, okay? I don't need to teach you all this stuff now. Most of you won't get there. I'm going to teach you how to be men. I'm going to teach you how to play football. I'm going to do it at a place that I'm passionate about at this HBCU. All this other stuff is nonsense. To me, it's an attention play. You could argue it's a bit of an insecurity play too. He's at a lower level school. He's not there yet. He's still got to prove that he's Primetime, doesn't have enough attention. I'm very much not a fan of it.
I'm probably going to get into this tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest, because you've led me to a bigger point that I'll just preview here, and then we'll get to Uncle Jimmy and a review of the show. But I think we think there's great value. I'm talking about black people and the way we disciple young people. We've pivoted. Eddie Robinson, Doug Williams, the quarterback from Grambling that won the Super Bowl with the Washington Redskins, once told me about Eddie Robinson's coaching philosophy as it related to race. He said Eddie Robinson never talked about racism. And he said, and Doug once asked him about it, and Eddie says, because when I send you out of here from Grambling, I want you convinced you can conquer the world. So I'm not going to weigh you down with any negativity and any like, oh my God, the world's against you. Because I want you to leave here as confident and as fearless as you possibly can. So all I'm going to do is talk about the opportunities that's out there for you. And we have completely pivoted away from that, not just in sports, but in culture entirely. We think it's our job to tell young people, man, here's all the things that are going to screw you up. Here's all the obstacles that are going to make it hard for you to ever be successful. Oh boy, there's racism out there, and it's just lurking around every corner. And you may think you're going to get a job, but racism is going to jump from around that corner and snatch it away from you. And we think that burdening and weighing down kids with all the bad stuff, that's our job. We're preparing them for how unfair life is. That's not how you compete. That's not, every coach that I've ever played for, the message was like, man, we playing on the road and they done hired the refs, but don't worry about it. If make a bad call, keep playing. Let us take care of it. Don't worry about it. That's how you win in life. There's going to be unfairness. There's going to be people throwing banana peels at your feet. Gotta learn how to, Anyway, go to youtube.com/Jason Whitlock. Hit that subscribe, like button. Give me the 5-star review if you're listening on Apple. I love reading my reviews on Apple. You guys are doing a great job. Let's keep it rolling. Uncle Jimmy is going to come here and tell us about how I did on today's show. I know I did a marvelous job. And we'll have an approval rating on Deion Primetime Sanders.
We wanna be free. We want freedom. I just want, I wanna be, I just want, I wanna be, I just want, I wanna be, I just want.
All right, welcome back. Time to wrap up the show. Uncle Jimmy's here to tell me how great of a job I did today. It was an amazing performance by me. Most people have it at 5 or 6 stars, even as high as 7 stars, some people, but Uncle Jimmy gets the final say. Jim, any thoughts about my performance on the show?
Yeah, first of all, we have TJ here with us. TJ, isn't this the part of the show to where you would tell the player, wouldn't you take the player into the blue tent to check out his injuries from pulling his shoulder out of place for smacking himself on the back?
The erector tent, yes.
Isn't this that time? But yes, sir, I find that your performance was second to none.
Second, I like that. How about TJ, his first in-person performance as the drill thrill sergeant? Do you have any thoughts on TJ?
TJ did good. He came out the door. He did good. He actually looks better in person than he does on camera.
I would actually agree with that, Jim.
You know, I agree. I was kind of.
He looks unshaven at home. He looks unkempt at home.
Well, I was surprised that you said you went out with him, because I know that would have meant that you was only going to get the leftovers. But, you know, he was doing good. And he was talking about Lamar Jackson, and he made a real nice analogy. He compared Lamar Jackson to RG3. You got to give me something for that, you know.
Well, that's because you've never liked Lamar Jackson, and so you'd love to hear people compare Lamar Jackson to someone who's out of the league.
Excuse me, TJ, do you think that Kunta Ball has a future in the NFL? Kunta left! Kunta right!
You putting him in a tough spot, man. If he laughs at that.
It's the Fearless Army. Come on, what you think, man?
I don't understand the question.
Listen here, look, I need you to speak up when I ask you a question. Come on, what you think, man?
Okay. Who are we talking about?
I just asked you a simple question.
Oh, you don't know who Kunta is?
Never heard of him.
Kunta Kinte from the show Roots. He's calling Lamar Jackson a slave.
Jason, I got this. TJ, stand up. Get your ass out of here. When you come back tomorrow, come back with more than good looks. Talking about who's Kunta. And you got to tighten that up.
You almost called him the N-word.
Well, this...
Man,
I don't know where you got this. Who's Kunta?
What about
keep on going,
the rest of the show? I mean, that's kind of disrespect. That's a young pup of a soldier, man. You could break his spirit.
Well, he needs this, the Fearless Army, man. What did you say? What you say? Here, let me write this down. What did you say in the earlier show? Said, you said, first of all, you said criticism makes you stronger if you're strong enough to take it.
That's true.
Well, you know. Also, real quick, and I didn't get to ask him, because you said that, what was that you said? That you said that he was more successful than you in Missouri?
Yeah, at Mizzou, yeah.
Okay, was you talking about in Dayton or in football?
Football.
Oh, okay. Right. I just want to clear that up. All right. I just want to get.
I was more infamous on Kansas's campus than Mizzou's campus. Okay. Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was the 90s.
Well, yeah. and if I may, just keep on going with the show.
Yeah.
How in the hell did you get Mike Tyson on this show?
You talking about Rashad McCann?
That's who that was?
Yeah, that was Rashad McCann.
Man, the way he was sitting up there with that tight shirt on, the way he was talking and everything, man.
The Kobe jersey?
Yeah, well, I think he was trying to tell you something.
What?
Well, you better watch your mouth talking about Kobe. Well, you see how I feel this jersey out? Hey, man, can I ask you this question for real?
Yeah, please.
Is Rashad done his time?
No, okay. Not that I'm aware of.
Because if I seen him in Kansas City and I was in my police car, I ain't, whoop! All right, come on, man.
You see ID?
Where the dope? Home with the guns. Anyway, but I love him, man, for real. He kept it real. Because he called Dion what he called? Deacon Dion.
Deacon Dion versus Primetime. I like that as well.
And let me tell you what he said that you didn't pick up on. You heard, because you said Dion ain't married. I don't know if he's still married. You know who he was married to?
Yeah, Tracy Edmonds, though.
You know who Tracy Edmonds is?
No.
That's Babyface's wife.
Oh, that's right.
Now, when you take Babyface woman,
What you need with Brittany Renner?
I mean, but you know, this is prime time. This is how prime do it, you know what I'm saying? I got Brittany Renner coming in here, you know what I'm saying? Even my foot messed up, I still get Brittany in here. That dude need to be ashamed of himself, man.
You got those, what about Santa Inc. and Shamika Michelle? Nothing?
Shamika, we're gonna talk about Shamika, honestly. I mean, her Santa Inc. analogy and everything she said, it was phenomenal as always. You asked her about the stereotype. I was really afraid she was gonna say, I was surprised that the black reindeer didn't date white reindeers. That's what I thought she was gonna say. But she didn't say that.
Well, I think she only watched 4 or 5 episodes. That may be in later episodes, so she probably bit her tongue. She don't know what's coming next.
And speaking of Shamika and her tongue, man, you've been getting on me about my language, man. You got to get Shamika on her language, man. You just letting Shamika come out and say whatever she want to. And I'm gonna say right now, here in front of everybody, you keep on letting Shamika talk like that, she gonna end up getting a good tongue lashing from me. Rules is rules.
That's between you and Shamika.
Okay.
Can we get, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done, man. I'm done.
All right, so let's get to Deion Sanders and our approval rating for prime time. Job performance, they won the SWAC. He went 11-1. They won the SWAC. I give him a 24 in job performance. You know, he lost 1 game. That's 1 short of perfect. He's doing a good job as the head coach at Jackson State, even though he missed like 3 or 4 games laid up in a hospital with that foot injury.
Hey, man, look here, I ain't played in over 20 years, and I can still pull a Brittany Renner. So don't tell me this ain't prime time. This is one of my best performances ever. I give him a 25.
I think you've already dipped into the Deion character. And so I'm giving him a 16 for character. I've marked him down for bringing Brittany Renner in. I think that was low character. So I've got him at a 16 in character. But
prime time is alive and kicking. You understand me? I mean, even in that commercial for the Affleck, you see I had 3 good-looking women in there. I'm going to get the gold jacket for bringing in these blue star hoes. You just watch.
25 in character from you. Authenticity. I don't know what to think about, you know, Deacon Dion versus Primetime Dion. I've got him at an 8 in authenticity.
I give him a 0. Hey, man, there's not a lot of athletes that when I grew up that I respected. One of the first calls I ever made to a sports talk show was to your guy, Don Fortune. And I called Don Fortune because at one time, I think he was playing against Dallas and a fan threw a drink on Dion. And that time, I think Dion was bragging that he had never had a drink and he never had alcohol in his body. And to me, just due to the fact that Dion was that dude, I was defending Dion like, how could you say that? I'm upset because a fan threw alcohol on him and now he's just throwing DNA all over his body. It don't matter.
0 in authenticity.
He gets 0.
I got you. It factor. Deion's pretty charismatic. I'm not going to give him a perfect score, but I will give him a 23. You know, he's lost a bunch of weight since he's been in the hospital, all the way down like 175 pounds.
Jason, let me tell you something. I mean this from the bottom of my heart, man. When you get old and you keep chasing these young women around, take its toll on you, boy. Honestly, it'll do it to you. You know what I mean?
It definitely will. And so you give him a 25, I see.
I give him a 25.
It factor. You've got him at 75 in a grease fire. I've got him at 71 in a grease fire. A lot of So we took different routes, but we pretty much got to the same place.
You know, one thing I will say this about you and Deion, you know, because Brittany said that you had to have a blue chip. We forget Deion got a blue chip. So, you know, she was letting it be known, Deion.
Blue check.
Blue check, blue chip, same thing. But my question is, so what about your blue chip? What happened with you and your blue chip with Brittany? Your blue check.
Oh, I never went into her DMs. I just followed along.
It just didn't have the kahunas, huh?
No, didn't. But way too young for me, even back in my idiot days.
Well, you know
follow
what?
from afar.
You know that you know that's normally what the law says. You got to follow from 300 feet.
I'm very paranoid. Anything I put in writing, I expect to someday see out in the public space.
Jason,
so my DMs are very, very PG-13.
Listen, let me speak on behalf of everybody in this studio. We appreciate it because we need you to stay employed so we can stay employed. Can we get some Tamara going here, man?
Yeah, tomorrow's already going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you did do a good job today. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good show. We'll see you tomorrow.
Looking for the right sign, looking like it's my time, feeling all kinds of free. These words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom. Raise up your hands for freedom. I just wanna be, I just